Officials to make morning visits to 400,000 most disruptive families. Around 400,000 of the UK's most disruptive families can expect to get a morning visit from officials in a bid to make sure their children go to school and get their proper re-education and brainwashing. Some of the country's most troubled families will get a wake-up visit to get them out of bed for job interviews as part of the government's plan to extend a project that already targets 120,000 families. So it says here, money to widen the scheme, which will also help make sure alcoholics and drug addicts go to rehab, has been allocated in the government's spending review for 2015-2016. So it says these 400,000 high-risk families cost taxpayers billions of pounds because of antisocial behavior, truancy, and lack of employment. I see you, Black. I love that too, man. It's just like, see, they pit the labor. They don't just pit everybody against each other. Like, they don't just pit different races against each other. They don't just pit different types of sexual preferences against each other. They don't pit generations against each other. They pit labor against each other. We have to compete with our labor against each other. And of course, we don't, in the end, when we rent our time and our labor out, we don't really profit. We get by. That's how it's made. But we're being exploited with our labor, with our time. And so they have us competing with labor as well. So, when in this capitalist system, just like the usury system, it's you're going to have unemployed people. That's just the way it is. You'll never have 100% employment. It's not designed like that. So let's blame the people that are unemployed, right? Like Margaret Sanger was saying, let's take these people and let's help them. But if we help them, we got to make sure that they agree to get sterilized. Last point to make on this is, remember, I've covered this before. I don't know if it was in Tennessee or it was in Texas, because Texas has their own Texas Truancy Task Force. They actually have task force for truancy. They're very adamant about getting the youth, indoctrinating them into this global corporate empire, right? Not to think independently. Get all that out. Get the leaders, the warriors, and weed them out. But what? You have cops going to people's houses if they're truant or late, right? So that's actually a program now in one of the states where the cops actually go, and students get a visit from the cops if they don't go to school. We know what the purpose of this is, forcing people into these re-education camps. And it's not education, because we know just from statistics through the curriculum of the education departments and that, is they're actually making the youth and the generation to generation less intelligent. They're dumbing them down, but they're also, like I said, they're weeding out certain traits that could lead to resistance against the system. Australian government forces citizens to answer intimate questions about sex partners or face jail time. So Australian government finds it necessary to travel door to door and collect personal information from random citizens. In an anti-democratic and coercive fashion, the Australian government forces citizens to answer intrusive, personally disturbing questions or face harassment, fines, and prosecution. It's called monthly population surveys, used since 1960 to get information about the country's workforce. It's another way to put it too. Their stock of slaves, right? That's how I see it. That's why when they say, "Ooh, you got to go to the human relations department, the human resources." I'm a human resource. Oh, okay. At least I have monetary value, right? Because if I didn't have a wage slave or salary slave job, then damn, I'd have no value, right? I can't procreate, and that's why I said they actually do that too. They use the economy as a way for procreation. It's weird too, because it's almost as if they're weeding out warriors, people who resist this system. So if you just go along to get along and you just do your job 9 to 5, you'll find a mate, you'll procreate. But those other ones that resist and fall out, the drunken Indians, right? They just don't want to participate. Like the one individual, the activist John Trudell, saying that the drunken Indian was a form of resistance, where they said, well, I can't be who I want to be, and I'm not going to be who you tell me to be, so I'm going to be nothing. And that's what's happening. So all these people, all these resistors, all these warriors in our generation, our society, are being weeded out through the economy of all things. Federal rules ban sale of junk food in schools. So sounds good, right? No pop, no cupcakes and all that. So good luck with that, right? So instead, they're going to have a bigger selection of fresh fruit, low-fat popcorn, and low-fat granola bars. It's going to be a game changer for our young people, says the Department of Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. So he cares about kids, right? No, he doesn't give a shit. Over $30 million spent last year on lobbying to keep GMOs hidden in foods. See, they want to. It's almost as if you eat this junk food, it's almost like it fills you up, so you don't actually eat a lot of it. It's just really fattening and stuff. And I mean, trust me, it's bad for you. But it's only. I wonder if it's actually worse if you eat all these non-organic, pesticide, herbicide, and even now GMO vegetables. That's why they're pushing this. Maybe is because then it of course sterilizes you, right? And because it's less filling, you're going to eat more of it, and it's going to tear up your guts and all that. So. But yeah, most of their efforts, Monsanto, are focused on lobbying GMOs to keep them legal and keep them hidden in foods. So they spent $6 million. The American Farm Bureau spent $5.7 million on lobbying in 2012. So pretty crazy deal. It says 2012 companies spent over $30 million influencing Congress on agricultural issues. So, what are the people going to do? You know what I mean? It's like you can come up with $30 million to influence Congress. Lifetime pesticide use and this telomere shortening among male pesticide applicators in the agricultural health study. So it says, just from yesterday as well, telomere length influences cancer cell differentiation. So cancer cells maintain short telomeres to maintain their undifferentiated state. So lastly, cancer cells have shorter telomeres compared to healthy ones, but they guard their immortality by maintaining these telomeres lengths. So I guess that's what it means when it says that lifetime pesticide use and telomere shortening among male pesticide. All right, moving on here. Extensive research shows Monsanto's #1 selling herbicide Roundup is killing you. So it says you already knew or aware of these crimes against humanity and nature by Monsanto. But it says here Monsanto's best-selling herbicide Roundup has been linked to lethal conditions of lymphoma and DNA damage. So just another reason why they would want to promote all this GMO and herbicide, pesticide-laced food, all right, to destroy your DNA. They're in the DNA destruction business, the eugenicists, that is. Studies have linked Roundup to 44 different diseases, including lymphoma, liver cancer, Parkinson's disease. A groundbreaking study says here they provide compelling data proving that basically aspirin and ibuprofen have been proven to cause heart attacks. You can go there and check it out. Links will be posted by tomorrow evening. Potent weapon against superbug is silver. It makes antibiotics far more effective, says studies. So they're just figuring this out. Well, it's like it makes you wonder why a lot of the royals had silver cups that they drink out of and silverware, actual silverware, So it says here, to stop superbugs, strains of bacteria resistant to antibiotics may have found in the silver bowl of sorts actual silver. So found antibiotics became up to 1,000 times more effective when silver was added to them. Well, why do you need antibiotics then again anymore, right? It was used in 400 BC, before the age of antibiotics. It says, here's the disclaimer, right? All of which sounds great, but a physician that represents the pharmaceutical complex that's drugging your children and killing generations and turning into brain-dead zombies, not involved with the study, cautions that silver can be toxic. Pharmaceutical drugs won't, vaccines won't, and that more research is needed to figure out how to add it to antibiotics without doing more harm than good to the patients, because they care about doing no harm to the patients as they radiate them with these MRI machines and dental x-rays and because they got to add it to antibiotics, something, again, that they can sell. That more research is needed. It's been used since 500 BC, but more research is needed. Now, I don't think you're actually looking. They're experts. Medical community. ADHD, a fictitious disease, says the creator of the Ailment. It says, did you know that the American Psychiatric Association estimates that 3 to 7% of school-age children have ADHD, while parents report that about almost 10% of children between 9 and 7 suffer from the condition. Although these stats are alarming, they aren't as shocking as the fact that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a completely made-up ailment, according to the father of ADHD, Leon Eisenberg, who made the shocking admission in the last interview before his death. So he was key in the research. It says it's been ADHD and his theory has become concrete within the medical community, leading tens of millions of children to be heavily medicated with mind-altering drugs for virtually no justifiable reason. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I was thinking about it earlier. It's like, you know, with these psychiatrists, they have a manual. It's like treating like a car, like a machine. How do you, because, you know, the one thing that they do understand is they've dissected the brain, the personality, the human brain, and their thought process and what they're going to do. They got to nail it down so they can carry out their alchemy and get things to, you know, disrupt that, inhibit that, and of course you end up with someone like this, right? Like a James Holmes, completely mind-controlled. We're talking about what is it? Neuroscience, right? The guy was tied to DARPA, mind manipulation. Says here they were involved in neurologically enhancing soldiers' abilities on the battlefield. So, you know, this was an experiment gone awry. Now all of a sudden he's a Muslim, so go figure. Basically, they use these manuals to treat people and approach them as machines, as defects. So if you have some kind of beef with authority because you don't like being completely dominated, you know, you have anti-authority disorder. If you're creative, you have a disorder. If you have a philosophical or moral belief or opposition to, let's say just homosexuality, then you know you're homophobic. You have a phobia. You have some kind of defect that needs to be corrected, right? Well, they don't actually cure the disease because they're not diseases, they're disorders, right? And they can treat it. So they need a drug dealer, and that's what the psychiatrist does. He's a drug dealer for this, for the elites. I mean, psychiatry was all about mind control from the beginning. So James Holmes will be bolted down in court. The shooting suspect is to wear a harness and cable. God, it's like Silence of the Lambs. He said it's an extremely rare procedure. PayPal and SETI aim to go galactic with off-planet currency system in space. A taxman might make you scream. So, but yeah, it said here, time is right today because of all the interest and movement and money. Private-public options are now moving into space. So we're going to have space cash, right? Kind of like South Park. No space cash here. Voyager 1 at edge of solar system. We have absolutely no reliable roadmap of what to expect at this point. So it says, the models that have been thought to predict what should happen are all incorrect, says physicists from Johns Hopkins University. We essentially have absolutely no reliable roadmap of what to expect at this point. The sun produces a plasma of charged particles called the solar winds, which get blown from its atmosphere at more than 1 million kilometers per hour. Some of these ions are thrown outward as much as 10% the speed of light. These particles also carry the solar magnetic field. Yeah, the sun actually protects us from all these harmful rays that are outside the system. Eventually, this wind is thought to hit the interstellar medium. A completely different flow of particles exploded from the deadly explosion of massive stars, expelled from the deadly explosions. These energetic ions created in the burst are known as galactic cosmic rays, mostly blocked from the coming into the solar system by the solar winds. The galaxy also hits its own magnetic field, which is thought to be a significant angle of the sun's field. Researchers know that Voyager 1 entered the edge of the solar wind in 2003. The instruments indicate the particles around it were moving subsonically, having slowed down after traveling far from the sun. Then about a year ago, everything got quiet. It says here the instruments indicated that at the solar wind suddenly dropped by a factor of 1,000 to the point where it was virtually undetectable. The transition happened fast within a few days. So it goes on, it says here that the galactic cosmic rays increased significantly, which is what they expected. Well, what's the problem? Well, if the solar wind was completely gone, galactic cosmic rays should be streaming in from all directions. Instead, Voyager found them coming preferentially from one direction. Furthermore, even though the solar particles have dropped off, the probe hasn't measured any real change in the magnetic fields around it. It said it's hard to explain because the galaxy's magnetic field is thought to be inclined 60 degrees from the sun's field. So no one is sure entirely what's going on. Interesting comment I'll read. What's interesting to me is the fact that the probe is leaving the solar system. I remember reading the reason that, I think he said, we don't have contact with ETs is because some galactic law says that all civilizations must be shielded and protected from the greater community of worlds until the civilization is able to leave its own solar system. Then it's open game. 19 surveys which prove that a large chunk of the population is made up of totally clueless sheeple. Go check it out. Dumbed down? Well, how'd they get that way? get in school, don't be a fool. And it goes to all these surveys and polls. Like I said, they're probably all engineered fudge numbers to engineer consent, but talking about how people allow the TSA, they don't mind it. NSA spying, don't mind it. So anyways, this is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.